I do want to jump in and look at really briefly the scope and sequence so you can see how this program sort of looks for parish and then also for school, because as I said, there's some slight differences here. So I'm just going to share my screen, so give me just a second here. And I just want to point this out. I know this is small type, so I don't expect you to read everything, but essentially here's the scope and sequence. This is for parish. So in year one, these are the student book chapters that they're covering, essentially 1 through 21. So that's 21 chapters for every single year. So they're covering these 21 chapters. When they get to year two, they're covering chapters 1 through 16, 17, and 18. So they're covering 18 chapters from the student book. And then we have something that we call life issue lessons. And something that we heard from our users is they really like the opportunity to take all of that, the theological content and the doctrinal content that students are learning, and then apply it to their everyday lives. And so you can see these life issues. This is being ourselves. The second one is making friends. And the third one is managing peer pressure. So 3 weeks in the parish program, we're using those life issue lessons. There is no student book for that. There's no student book content for that. All of the lesson planning for that is in the Catechist Guide itself. So you have everything you need. It really runs in the same format and same structure as any other lesson. It just doesn't involve a student book piece, but there's content there's delivered, and there's obviously lots of activities. If you've looked through our Catechist guides and our teacher guides, you'll see that sort of a hallmark of St. Mary's Press is active learning. We really want learning to come to life for these students. So it's not just getting words across and getting concepts across and having the students repeat that back to us and make sure they memorize that. That's all well and good, and we need that to happen, obviously, but we also try to create some deeper meanings and some more memorable moments in the classrooms by really creating activities that for much of the part, get students out of their seats, get them interacting together in a fun and lively way that brings the lesson and the learning to life. So it's not just an activity to be silly and fun and goofy and then we move on. It actually is anchored in the actual theme and the focus of the chapter. And so those become really essential. But it's a lively, dynamic way. And what we have found, and I've heard again and again, is that the children and youth are learning so much more because they get really anchored in some of those activities and remember them and remember the meaning of them. So the life issue lessons are something that's covered specifically in the parish program. In year three, then we have just 11 chapters in the student book. And then we have 13 additional life issue lessons. So 8th grade is a great time to cover some of those. So they take everything that they've learned in year 1 and 2, and they sort of bring that together and start chewing on that a little bit on the specific, what we're calling life issue lessons. So that is the parish program. So essentially 21 chapters for every single year. Obviously, some parishes have to supplement that or delete some of those chapters depending on particular schedules and movement around holidays and liturgical seasons. But 21 lessons really anchor the program in year 1, 2, and 3. So that's the structure for parish. And again, everything in the Catechist Guide and the student book, the activity book supplements that in the Bible. If we jump over then to the school, particularly Connect School, we have a little bit of a different structure. Again, if you can follow, I know, again, this is going to be hard to read, but you can see they follow the student book chapters. Anything that's numbered corresponds directly with a student book chapter in the core student book, and we're looking at year 1 right now. But as you go along in this lesson, you start to see, oh, here's a letter A, the Gospel of Mark. Oh, here's a letter B. So we veered away from the numbers. Essentially, what we've heard from those people in the school programs is they really want a deeper dive into Scripture since they have more time. with the students, they really want to dive into scripture at a deeper level. So we have created these additional lessons. These are in addition to the student book that center themselves on scripture. So as I mentioned, all of the lesson plans, everything we need, step-by-step details are provided for you in the teacher guides. But the core text of that particular chapter is going to be the Bible. So that is why we really need the Bible in the classroom for these specific lessons. So you can see in year one, we just have 4 additional scripture lessons: the Gospel of Mark, the Gospel of Matthew, Luke, and John. And then we move to 21. We still use the same 21 chapters from the student book, but combined with those Bible chapters, it's 25 chapters for the year. And so year 2 follows along. We're using student book. And if you haven't seen this scope and sequence, I really encourage you to take a look at it. If you haven't seen it, we can send that to you, because you can see the movement, the core understandings, how we're following the catechism, those keywords and key scripture passages. So you see year 2, we start, here's an A chapter. So this is the patriarchs of Israel, the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, etc., etc. So we're adding some really deep dives into scripture that can supplement the chapters in the student book. In year 3 is when we get to not only the student book chapters, so we're doing student book chapters, we're also doing those additional scripture chapters. You can see right here, we have the letter A. We're talking about Paul's early letters and Paul's later letters. But as we travel toward the end, we start moving into church history. So that's using this particular student book. And so again, all those lessons, how to process that, are in the school teacher guides. So you have everything that you need to work with that student book. And the student book is set up very similarly to the core student book. And so the youth are going to have no problem following and tracking through how that moves. So it's just a separate book for that particular piece. So 25 chapters for the school. Again, that can work differently in different school settings. Some might want to supplement with liturgical season lessons, or you may have times that you're out of school because of vacations or such. So you may have to trim some of those and make some decisions about which particular lessons you're covering. But that's essentially the structure as seen in the scope and sequence. Scope and sequence obviously is just a great overview of how that's tracking. The catechist guides and the teacher guides follow a really specific format. I don't want to spend too much time with that. I know you've probably already been looking through that, but there's always an opening prayer. There's always what we call an engage activity, and that is really just to touch on the student's prior experience, get them a little curious, a little excited, a little interested in what might be coming forward, ties to something that they already know. And then we jump into the core content. And typically, again, that is in the student book. For the school, obviously, that's going to be also potentially in the Bible or the church history book. And then after the core content, you'll see we have the core learning activity. It's really in some ways, the center of the lesson, and that is that activity that brings the lesson to life in a fun and dynamic way for the students. And so all of those directions, including potential things for you to say or make sure that you cover to help you process that with the students, is in there. We have a session wrap up and then a closing prayer. And in the parish guide, we also have optional activities. There are additional activities if you want to extend or replace a particular activity. There's additional options that we have for you. In the school guide, we also have additional activities. They can supplement and make a lesson actually longer. So we have ideas for where those fit best within the lesson plan. So that is all for you as well. So everything you need is there, tracks the same way. There's more assessment opportunities in the school. So we have reading guides, we have quizzes, we have tests, where schools are oftentimes doing more summative kinds of assessment, and they want those opportunities. We have that there for you as well. So you'll find that in the teacher guide. So everything you need all covered for you in the particular guides. So that's an overview. I hope I didn't speak too quickly. I am very excited about this program and have already started to hear people using it and how successfully it's going in the classroom and in the parish. So I'm just excited to talk to you about it.